Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. There's a kind of courage that doesn't come with a crowd. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with validation. It comes in the silence. It comes when the phone stops ringing, when the house is quiet, when the only voice left is yours. And more women, brilliant, powerful, loving women, are learning that kind of courage. The courage to walk alone. See, society's been telling her all her life that she needs someone beside her to be complete, that a woman alone is a woman abandoned. But let me correct that narrative right here, right now. A woman who walks alone, walks with power. She's not waiting to be saved. She's saving herself because she's learned that peace is better than pretending. She's learned that she'd rather eat alone than sit at a table where love is a game and respect is optional. She'd rather sleep in silence than lay next to someone who doesn't see her soul. That's not loneliness. That's growth. That's maturity. That's courage. Don't confuse her solitude with sadness. She's not lost. She's not broken. She's evolving. She's healing. She's learning to enjoy her own company, learning that she doesn't have to shrink to be loved or stay to be seen. She's not running from love. She's running toward real love, starting with herself. And when she finally lets someone in, it'll be from overflow, not emptiness. So if you see her walking alone, head high, quiet strength in her step, don't feel sorry. Feel inspired, because that's not a woman who's been left behind. That's a woman who refused to settle. Let them say what they want. Let them whisper. Let them wonder. She's not here to meet expectations. She's here to rewrite them. She's not afraid to be alone because she's finally at peace with who she is. And that takes courage. That solitude is a strength, not a weakness. This idea goes against what many have been taught to believe. From a young age, people are conditioned to believe that being surrounded by others, being liked, being invited, and being included is where value lies. That if you're alone, something must be wrong with you. That if no one is texting you, calling you, needing you, or validating you, then you are empty. But the truth is, there's a silent kind of power that only grows when you're by yourself. Solitude isn't the absence of connection, it's the presence of self. And women today are waking up to this truth more than ever. When a woman chooses solitude, she's not giving up. She's rising. She's stepping away from noise, from chaos, from comparison, from competition. She's creating space, not because she's hiding, but because she's healing. Because sometimes to truly hear your own voice, you have to mute the world around you. She's not afraid of being alone because she's beginning to understand that being alone gives her something no crowd ever could. Clarity. There's a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is craving connection and feeling the ache of its absence. Solitude is being connected to yourself, to your values, to your spirit, and not needing external validation to feel complete. It's in solitude that a woman realizes she doesn't have to constantly perform. She doesn't have to dim her light to fit in. She doesn't have to be on all the time. She just has to be. That is power. To be comfortable with yourself is a rare and underrated form of strength. In the quiet, she sees her path. She begins to understand what drained her, who never really showed up for her. She reflects, and reflection is where transformation begins. Solitude becomes the mirror that never lies. In the stillness, she can finally ask herself, who am I when no one is watching? What do I really want, not what they expect of me? Who do I want to become? People will often look at a woman who's alone and assume she's been rejected. Think she must be heartbroken. She must be tired of trying. She must be sad. But maybe they're wrong. Maybe she's finally found the peace she was always looking for in herself. Maybe she's no longer chasing someone to complete her story. Maybe she's writing a new one altogether where she is both the main character and the author. Solitude doesn't mean you're shutting people out. It means you're being intentional about what and who you let in. When a woman realizes that not every room deserves her presence, not every person deserves her time, and not every opinion deserves a response, she levels up. That's not ego. That's boundaries. That's strength born from solitude. You start to notice that when you sit with yourself long enough, the noise of insecurity fades. You stop comparing your timeline to theirs. You stop begging for crumbs when you can bake your own bread. You stop chasing love and start attracting respect. And all of it starts with that brave moment you choose to sit alone, to face yourself, to know yourself, to grow with yourself. Many people fear solitude because they've never met themselves outside the roles they've been assigned: daughter, wife, girlfriend, employee, friend. They fear what they might find when the labels fall away. But for the woman who chooses to face that fear, a deeper truth emerges. She realizes she is more than what she does for others. She is more than the love she receives. She is someone with thoughts, with fire, with depth, with intuition. She is someone who doesn't need to be rescued, but simply remembered by herself. When you build strength in solitude, relationships become a choice, not a necessity. You no longer cling to someone just because you're afraid of being alone. You don't chase attention just to feel enough. You begin to love with freedom, not fear. You communicate with truth, not desperation. You're not afraid to walk away when peace is at risk because you've already learned how to stand on your own. You're not lonely in silence. You're powerful in it. Solitude is where vision is born. You get to dream without distraction. You get to build without compromise. You get to ask bold questions. What legacy do I want to leave? What kind of energy do I want around me? What do I deserve that I've been too scared to claim? The answers don't come from outside. They rise from within, and only when the world is quiet enough to hear them. In solitude, a woman rediscovers her standards. She remembers that her worth is not negotiable, that she doesn't need to be chosen to be valuable, that she doesn't need to be liked to be lovable, and that love, when it does arrive, should add to her life, not complete it, because she's already whole. That understanding, that confidence, that grace, it doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from solitude. When you have the courage to be alone, you begin to attract the kind of life that aligns with your soul, not your fears. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop settling and start selecting. And every day you choose to remain grounded in your truth, you become more unshakable. Not because you've built walls, but because you've built a foundation. Solitude teaches patience. It teaches resilience. It teaches faith. When everything external is stripped away and you're left only with yourself, that's when you see what you're really made of. You learn that the approval you were waiting for was your own, that the love you were looking for had to start from within, that the peace you wanted so badly could only be found when you stopped running and sat still. The world may try to rush you. It may try to shame you for sitting still, for not constantly chasing, for choosing calm over chaos. But the woman who has embraced solitude knows something the world doesn't, that everything real, everything lasting, everything worth having begins inside first. And when you build yourself from the inside out, you cannot be broken from the outside in. Solitude is not emptiness. It is fullness without dependence. It's you finally realizing that you were never missing anything. You were just missing space to listen, space to breathe, space to remember who you are beneath it all. And that kind of knowing, that kind of grounded, centered strength, that's what solitude reveals. That's what solitude reveals. And once a woman finds that, she doesn't fear being alone. She welcomes it because she's not just sitting in silence. She's sitting in her power. Healing requires space, not just physical space, but emotional, mental, and spiritual room to breathe, to release, and to rebuild. When a person is constantly surrounded by noise, people talking, obligations pulling, expectations mounting, there is no room for the quiet process of healing to unfold. The wounds we carry, whether emotional or psychological, do not close in chaos. They close in stillness. They close in solitude. They close when we create enough distance from the things that hurt us, distracted us, or drained us. Too often, people try to heal in the same environment where they got hurt. They stay in toxic relationships, hoping the love will return. They stay in stressful environments, hoping they'll learn to cope. But healing is not about adjusting to pain. It's about releasing it. And to release something, you have to first get still enough to feel it, to face it. That requires space. When you are constantly reacting to people around you, you're not reflecting, you're surviving. And healing cannot thrive in survival mode. It requires a sense of safety, of slowness, of silence. When we step back, we give ourselves the opportunity to actually see what happened to us, not from a place of blame, but from a place of truth. This allows us to move beyond the immediate emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, and begin to uncover what those emotions are really trying to say. Maybe we feel betrayed because we ignored our instincts. Maybe we feel broken because we tied our worth to someone else's treatment of us. These realizations don't come while we're busy. They come when the noise stops and that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers we've been too distracted to hear. Healing in space is not always comfortable. In fact, it's often painful. When we are alone with ourselves, we can no longer use people as distractions. We can't use conversations to drown out our insecurities. We can't use work noise or drama to ignore our inner chaos. In space, everything rises to the surface. The fears we buried, the memories we tried to forget, the truth we didn't want to admit. But that's the beauty of space. It confronts us with what's real. And it's only through confronting what's real that we can finally let it go. Many people are afraid of space because they confuse it with loneliness. They think that being alone means being forgotten, unloved, or empty. But space is not the absence of connection. It is the opportunity to reconnect, first with ourselves, then with others in a healthier, more grounded way. When we heal in space, we are no longer molding ourselves to be what others need us to be. We are rediscovering who we are when no one is watching. We are learning to accept our flaws without judgment. We are learning to forgive ourselves for the things we didn't know, the choices we made, the love we gave too free. Space gives us perspective. When we are too close to a situation, our emotions cloud our judgment. We think we need that person. We think we can't survive without that job. We think we'll never get over that mistake. But when we step back, when we allow time and distance to soften the sting, we begin to see things differently. We realize that what we thought was the end was actually a beginning. We see that rejection was redirection, that the silence wasn't punishment, it was protection. And from this new perspective, we begin to heal not just from what happened, but from the false beliefs we formed because of it. Healing requires space because space teaches us self-reliance. It shows us that our happiness cannot depend on someone else's approval, that our peace cannot be built on someone else's presence. It teaches us that we are capable of standing alone, of facing the discomfort, of choosing ourselves. This doesn't mean we stop needing people. It means we stop needing people to fix us. We no longer expect others to fill the void. We start doing that work ourselves, slowly, quietly, intentionally. Space allows us to ask better questions. Instead of why did they hurt me, we ask a why did I stay instead of a why am I not enough? We ask who taught me that I wasn't. These questions don't come when we're caught up in distraction. They come in the pause. They come when we have enough distance from the chaos to think clearly, to connect the dots, to uncover the path. They think someone else will fill the void inside them, that if they are chosen, they will finally feel worthy. But that's not how it works. Without self-worth, love becomes performance. You find yourself molding, shrinking, bending to please. You start to measure your value by how others respond to you. You give too much, accept too little, and keep hoping they'll finally see your worth. But they can't. Not fully, because they're reading the standard you set for yourself. If you tolerate disrespect, they think you expect it. If you settle for inconsistency, they believe that's all you need. Your self-worth is the instruction manual for how others treat you. Self-worth is not ego. It's not arrogance. It's not entitlement. It's self-respect. It's the quiet confidence that says, I don't have to explain why I deserve better. I just know I do. It's walking away from what doesn't align without needing permission or applause. It's knowing the difference between being alone and being devalued. When self-worth is intact, you stop trying to convince people of your value. A person with strong self-worth doesn't entertain confusion. They're not interested in maybes, mixed signals, or emotional roller coasters. They don't wait for someone to figure out if they're worthy of commitment. They already know they are. So when someone shows inconsistency, they don't chase clarity. They create distance. That's the power of self-worth. It allows you to observe behavior without personalizing it. It helps you recognize that how someone treats you says more about them than it does about your value. Building self-worth often comes after pain, after betrayal, after loving someone so deeply that you forgot to love yourself. It comes after looking in the mirror and realizing you've been settling, that you've been measuring your value through someone else's lens, that you've been trying to be enough for someone who never deserved access to you in the first place. It's in that moment of awakening that something shifts. You start reclaiming parts of yourself that you gave away. You start remembering who you were before the world told you to be small. And you start setting standards, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Self-worth changes your energy. You no longer approach relationships from a place of fear. You don't fear losing people who are not aligned with you. You don't fear solitude. In fact, you embrace it because you know your peace is priceless. You would rather be alone than in situations that make you feel unseen. That's not loneliness. That's liberation. When self-worth is intact, you don't beg to stay in rooms you were meant to leave. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. You don't stay silent to avoid rocking the boat. You know that your truth matters, that your needs are valid, that your time and energy are sacred. Self-worth shows up in the smallest decisions. In the text you don't send. In the boundary you hold. In the apology you stop waiting for. In the mirror when you look at yourself and choose not to criticize, but to honor. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest with yourself, about knowing when you've let things slide for too long, about choosing to be your own protector, your own nurturer, your own home. Because when you build that kind of relationship with yourself, no one can take it away. No one can use your insecurities against you. No one can make you feel less than, because you already know who you are. We live in a world that profits off insecurity, that teaches people, especially women, that their worth is based on their appearance, their relationship status, their productivity. So self-worth is a rebellion. It's choosing to define yourself for yourself, to see your value beyond the roles you play, to know that you are not what happened to you. You are not your mistakes. You are not what someone else failed to see in you. You are whole. And when you know you're whole, you stop asking for crumbs. You start demanding the meal. And if the table isn't right, you build your own. Self-worth helps you break cycles. The cycle of people-pleasing. The cycle of needing external validation. The cycle of staying where you're tolerated instead of where you're celebrated. It helps you ask better questions. Not a will they like me, but a do I even like them? Not a how can I keep them, but a do they deserve access to me? These questions come from a place of power, not pain. They come from knowing that your value doesn't increase or decrease based on someone else's opinion. When you truly embody self-worth, your relationships change. You attract people who respect your boundaries, who see your value, who don't need to be convinced. You attract experiences that align with your growth. And more importantly, you stop betraying yourself to keep things that aren't meant for you. You stop holding on to situations out of fear. Because you've learned that nothing real will require you to sacrifice your self-worth. Nothing real will make you question your enoughness. Nothing real will ask you to shrink. Self-worth is a daily practice. It's not a switch you flip. It's a standard you set over and over again. It's how you show up for yourself when no one's watching. It's how you speak to yourself when you make a mistake. It's how you stand up for yourself when someone crosses a line. And the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. The more you choose yourself, the more the world learns to do the same. A person with self-worth doesn't wait for life to validate them. They move through the world with quiet confidence, knowing that their worth is not a question. It's a fact. Not because they're perfect, but because they've chosen to see themselves clearly, to accept who they are, to own their story, to stop proving and start being. And from that place, everything changes. The standard is set, not out of pride, but out of love. Not to keep people out, but to make sure the right ones can come in. Because when you know your worth, you don't settle for anything less than what aligns with it. You can't, not anymore. Peace is greater than pressure. This truth isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with urgency or drama. It doesn't demand attention or scream to be heard. Peace whispers. It settles quietly in your spirit. It shows up in the moments you choose to pause instead of push, to breathe instead of break, to let go instead of grip tighter. Peace is not passive, it's powerful. And more people are learning that it's far more valuable than performing under constant pressure, pleasing others at the cost of themselves, or living life based on expectations that were never truly their own. Pressure can come from anywhere, from society, from family, from friends, from social media, from the unspoken belief that we must always be more, achieve more, be like more. There's pressure to stay in relationships that drain you because you fear being alone. Pressure to meet timelines that were handed to you rather than chosen by you. Pressure to be strong, even when you're breaking. Pressure to show up for everyone else, even when you're not there for yourself. Pressure is sneaky. It wraps itself in guilt. And it should feel like rest is laziness, like boundaries are selfishness, like your worth is measured by how much you endure. But peace tells another story. Peace says you don't have to prove anything, that it's okay to slow down, that your value isn't tied to productivity or perfection. Peace gives you permission to choose differently, to stop chasing the life others expect and start building the one your soul craves. Peace is choosing the quiet room over the crowded one when your spirit needs stillness. Peace is walking away from someone who doesn't respect you, even when your heart wants to stay. Peace is deciding that your mental health matters more than someone else's comfort. Peace doesn't always feel easy. It's the deep knowing that even when life feels heavy, you don't have to carry it all at once. When you choose peace, you become more intentional. You stop multitasking your way through life. You become present in conversations. You listen more. You react less. You laugh from your belly and cry from your chest because you're no longer numbing yourself just to survive. Peace brings clarity. It reveals who and what truly matters. It shines a light on the relationships that feel mutual versus the ones that